What happened to the time? It's time to go. Oh, hello again. It's good to be back. Welcome to Mount Vernon Unitarian Church, a welcoming community for seekers of all types. My name is Reverend Ian Whitemar, and I'd like to extend a special welcome to anyone who's here for the first time, or maybe you've been visiting for a few times. Please come and say hi during coffee hour. I'd love to get to know you a little better. Hello to everyone online. If you were willing, say wave hi to them. Thank you for joining us. We love having you as part of our extended community. Just a moment, a very special thank you to everyone who made Phyllis's memorial yesterday so phenomenal. Right? So the members of ET, and I'm going to name a couple of names just because, to embarrass you, I guess. Sandy Peterson, a bunch of members of ET, but Sandy Peterson just went really all out. So thank you so much, Sandy, and all the other members of ET. The reception was gorgeous. Behind the scenes, Wendy Montanari, Marion Martz, and Becky Brandt, just really, some of that was just such invisible work, and you never know that's happening, but a lot went into it. Thank you so much. Mark and the choir and Chris Clark came in to do AV. The sound was luscious. It was luscious and so beautiful. Yvonne came. It was so beautiful. It was just great. And thank you to everyone who showed up and filled out the room. It felt just full and loving, and it was just a touching service. So thank you to everyone. As you know, we're sort of shifting our focus in the religious education ministry to children, youth, and families, so we can really focus on that program and build that program stronger. So if you're curious about what it means to have a children, youth, and a family ministry, we're having a discussion, a workshop on June 5th on Zoom from 7 to 9 with our interim DRE, Laurel Powell-Haney, and with the Reverend Dana Edwards, who's the MRE up at Cedar Lane. They're going to be leading this workshop, letting people learn more about what family ministry is all about. You can find out you can get the link in our newsletter. This is your last chance to sign up, right? We'll send out information on Wednesday. What do you say, Wednesday? Okay, last day to sign up. It's right here. It's the QR code. We are marching in DC Pride this year, and I don't know how many people are signed up. I got some screenshots. There are a lot of us. And we're going to do it, yeah, absolutely. And we're going to do it two different ways so that everyone can participate. We're going to have a group that is with the float and the truck, and we'll be out there in I'm wearing a sparkling romper. So dress the part. And then there'll be a place where people who have mobility issues, they can cheer us on as a big group of folks on the side, and we'll have a big gathering for folks. So if you want to just cheer from the sideline, there'll be a great big group, and if you want to walk, there'll also be a group. So you can sign up online. Just scan that QR code, and we'll get it all sorted out, all the information by Wednesday. This summer, we're piloting a summer minister program with Ebony Peace. Some of you know her. She's preached here before. She is a member up at, she was raised at UU at the Silver Spring congregation, and she's a member up at the Hyattsville congregation. It's called Paintbrush. She'll be preaching 6 times this year, 2 sermon series, and then she's running 5 workshops. And you can just sign up for the workshop. Those are all virtual. We sent out a video just last week, I think. But you can find that all online to just learn the details of what she's offering. It's going to be fantastic. We're having our final new member joining ceremony. You guys keep wanting to join. I try to get you to stop. No, I don't. I'm actually super glad. We're having our final new member joining ceremony on the 16th. If you would like to be a part of that ceremony, Email Jim Burke at membershipchair@mvuc.org, and we'll make sure that you're sign up. There's a lot more in the newsletter: outdoor fellowship, information about General Assembly. If you aren't getting our weekly newsletter, you can sign up outside at our membership table. There's just a bunch of stuff in there, and we hope that you'll join that newsletter. All right. Our offertory this week, it's a little bit split up. We're going to do 2 weeks, and then we're going to do 3 weeks, or something like that. 2 weeks and 2 weeks, maybe. Our first 2 weeks this year for Share the Plate is the Gum Springs Civic Association, along with the Historical Society Museum. Gum Springs, as many of you know, is the oldest freestanding African-American community in Fairfax County. It's just to the south over here. It traces its roots back nearly 200 years. Fairfax County staff are working closely with Gum Springs to launch a heritage resource study. The community engagement is crucial for the success of the study, and the outcomes are going to impact the preservation efforts. So for the first 2 weeks, this week and next week, MVUC is supporting the efforts of the Civic Association and the Historic Society and the Museum of Gum Springs with our Share the Plate offering. So please be as generous as you can as the plates come forward. The ushers can come forward to start that. With that, let's begin our service.
Good to go. Test, test, test. Oh, you better mind how you talk. Yes, you better mind what you're talking about. 'Cause you got to give an account in the judgment. Oh, you better mind how you talk. Yes, you better mind what you're talking about, 'cause you got to give an account in the judgment. Oh, you better mind. Oh, you better mind. You got to give an account in the judgment. Oh, you better mind how you sing. Yes, you better mind what you're singing about, 'cause you got to give an account in the judgment. Oh, you better mind how you sing. Yes, you better mind what you're singing about, 'cause you got to give an account in the judgment. Oh, you better mind. Oh, you better mind. 'Cause you got to give an account in the judgment. Oh, you better mind how you shout. Yes, you better mind what you're shouting about, 'cause you got to give an account in the judgment. Oh, you better mind how you shout. Yes, you better mind what you're shouting about, 'cause you got to give an account in the judgment. Oh, you better mind. Oh, you better mind, 'cause you got to give an account in the judgment. Oh, you better mind. Oh, you better mind. You got to give an account in the judgment. Ooh.
For Each and for All by Eric Walker Wilkstrom. A flame rises from the flaming chalice, a symbol of Unitarian Universalist faith. We light this chalice for all who are here and all who are not, for all who have ever walked through our doors, for those who may yet find this spiritual home, for those we can't even yet imagine. For each of us and all of us, may this flame burn bright and warm.
Good morning. Would you stand as you're willing and able and join us in 1017 from your teal hymnals, 1017, Building a New Way. Please remain standing. Thank you.
Please join in the words of our covenant, which is found in your order of service. Love is the teaching of this church. The quest for truth its daily task, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve life in community, to the end that all souls shall grow in harmony. This is our covenant with each and with all.
Join us now. It's hymn number 1059, also in the teal hymnal. May your life be as a song, 1059. As we enter into our contemplative time together, may we find our breath, find just a moment of stillness where we can just let the world rest. Maybe we straighten our backs a little bit, find ourselves firmly in our seats, our feet on the floor if that feels right. Just breathing. Nothing is out of place. Nothing is extra. The airplane overhead, the subtle noises of the room. Everything is just as it should be. Just breathe. As we breathe, perhaps there is a generosity of spirit that we can find, that we can touch within ourselves. A generosity of spirit for the world, for our families, for the church, for anyone who needs it. A resting place of generosity. We'll go into about a minute of silence, just resting in this generosity, after which we'll begin to play some music, which is your sign to come forward and light a candle, if that feels right for you. But for now, just rest in the generosity of the Spirit. Well, before we do that, Mark, I think we're done with RE for the year, right? So we're not singing the children out? I mean, I think there's, the young kids are outside, and otherwise we're in here. Let's sing them in, how about we sing to the children in the room, but you guys just stay with us. How about that? All right, the words are printed in your order of service, but please don't go anywhere, stay with us. Yeah, let's sing anyway. It's a nice song. What do you think?
I love it.
But just stay with us. It's for you and you and you. We hold you in your heart as you stay, May your hearts be at peace as you stay. We nurture the spark of your precious life. We hold you as you stay.
We didn't have recitals. We had sharing parties. Mrs. Thomas started each one reminding us of that, and that it did not matter if a finger slipped or a note was forgotten, because we're all human. We were all there to share our music with each other. This is not to say that we were lackadaisical in our practice. Nope. Pieces had to be completely memorized, no sheet music allowed for those sharing parties. And she worked with us to hone our interpretations of the pieces we played. You would know when a piece was ready to be shared by the joy that just radiated from her body. Seeing that joy always felt really good. Mrs. Thomas was my piano teacher growing up. She encouraged us students to play from our hearts, playing maybe not perfectly from a technical perspective, but allowing what we felt the music should be to come through. She wanted to hear what the music made us feel, to add our own voice. Do you know how freeing that is? To be asked to share your music and know that it's okay to not be perfect in doing so? Well, I certainly didn't see it as freeing when I was a kid, when it was my turn to play at these sharing parties. No. I mean, from my perspective, my friends, they would play their pieces just fine. I mean, even if they made a mistake, it was never a big deal. But me? My stomach would churn as I fretted playing a wrong note in front of people. I'd break out in cold sweat, certain that the audience wouldn't like what I was sharing, that my best wouldn't be good enough. Afterwards, my friends' parents would come up and they would tell me I played well, but I knew better. My fingers had slipped. They'd tell me it didn't matter. They appreciated that I played with feeling. I didn't buy it. I knew that they were just saying that to make me feel good. They didn't really mean it. I'd give a smile, say thank you, and go eat a cookie. Of course, now I see that's all we can do, to try our best with each other, to work really hard at getting it right, putting our heart into it, and allowing for the mistakes. You know, maybe my friends' parents really did find joy in what I'd played for them. Maybe they saw that I'd given it my best, and that it wasn't just good enough, it was good, both playing with feeling and the mistakes. It's been more than 30 years since I last went to one of Mrs. Thomas's sharing parties, and almost as long since I last played the piano. Yet her words and teachings keep popping up as applicable in life in so many ways, whether it's work, here, relationships. And when I do share my heart and not worry about the potential slips, when I show up as the human I am, it is freeing. It is. I still get all stuck up in my head, analyzing and synthesizing a lot. That's who I am. For me, art, or specifically making art, is how I give my heart voice, to pull out of my head, to remember that this, all of this, isn't a recital. It's a sharing party.
A friend came over for dinner and commented about a book resting on my table called Doorway to the Soul: How to Have a Profound Spiritual Experience, which is kind of a funny title. You know, follow these simple steps, and you too can experience the Spirit. But I say it kind of only half jokingly because, I mean, it is a funny title, right? It strikes me as funny. And isn't it what most of us want? Right? This book falls into a certain genre of spiritual and social writing, the 9 life lessons, the 8 steps for positive living, the 7 habits. Everybody knows that one, right? The 7 habits of highly effective people. I even found a wiki page that outlined the 6 steps for choosing a self-help book. It's a pretty popular genre. And, you know, it's fun to be cheeky. But also, the Buddha outlined the 4 noble truths, and the 12 sources of suffering, and the 8-fold path of the cessation of suffering and achieving enlightenment. So it's not that spiritual books that outline a direction to follow are bad in themselves. I guess that's betraying a bias because I like the Buddhist stuff. We clearly want help with our lives, and having a list to follow is reassuring. Right? I think the biggest movement of the 20th century, right, is the 12-step movement, which started with AA, but like the 12 steps are everywhere now, right? The 12-step movement. We find it reassuring. And we don't have to know the whole plan all at once. We can take this experience a little bit at a time before moving on to the next stage. But I think that some of our ambivalence towards these books with the 9 lessons and the 8 steps and the 7 habits is wrapped up in the fact that ultimately we see them as commercial efforts written by someone who hopes to get paid and published by a press that knows that books with lists sell well. And we are suffering and unhappy and unsuccessful, and we want to change our lives. And people and publishing houses know that if they put out these books to sell us, we'll buy them. And there never seems to be an end to the discomfort of living, so there will always be a new book with lists outlining what we need to do to take advantage of this discomfort. And this doesn't mean that the authors don't believe what they write or that certain publishing houses are anything but absolutely committed to making this world a better place. It's just that the genre almost requires a never-ending suffering to keep the market going. Which brings me to another dimension of our ambivalence. By a raise of hand. Well, actually, I won't put you on. I suspect I am not the only one in the room to have bought one of these books. I suspect I'm not the only one who bought 3 of these books or 5 of these books, right? I've read a bunch of these. I will read more of them. And part of the reason is that my life still has suffering, and I suffer. And perhaps my life has less suffering because I've read some of these books. Perhaps my life is more effective or more passionate or more meaningful because I've read some of these books, but none of them have walked me through the threshold of enlightenment. Right? So some of the ambivalence that we feel is that we've tried these books, at least for a while, and nothing really changes. Right? Sometimes they become really good excuses for beating ourselves up. My life would be so much better if I actually got up and did my morning pages. Or balanced my finances, or did my meditation, or any number of the good habits outlined. I promised myself this year I'd write a letter each week to a friend. I don't know, I think I've written 2. You know? And we can the lash can be very easy to flick on ourselves. Oh, this is why I'm not a happy person, or I would be happier if I did it. And it's true that my life does seem to work a little better when I exercise regularly, and I pray regularly, or I pay attention to my money regularly, or my family. And it's true that my life does feel kind of rough when I ignore the phone calls, or I stay up late and watch too much TV, or watch movies all day, or eat garbage, even though I love eating garbage. You know, and I allow myself to listen to the voice that says, this is why you're not successful or spiritual or fit. And so I go running for another book, or, now webpage. Even as I'm looking at it, holding it with incredible optimism, there's part of me that says, maybe. So I understand, that dimension of the ambivalence as well. The feeling of even if I buy this, it's just not going to work. And this isn't just an issue of contemporary culture, right? I know a lot of Buddhists who can recite the 12 sources of suffering. But they still hang out in those sources all the time. Ignorance, attachment, craving, making stuff up. We're still dealing with the same issues today that the Buddha was dealing with 2,500 years ago. Maybe some of you are dealing with them right now, in this moment. It's like this sermon is already too long. When are we out of here? Wanting to be released from the suffering is... it's a timeless thing we deal with. And I think there is also something else at work, something aspirational. Right? I think one of the reasons I keep coming back to these books, and why we all keep coming back to these books, this is like a multi-billion-dollar industry, these books. Why we all keep coming back to these books is that intuitively we know that there is more to this existence than just our lives, than just our egos. Right? That I understand that my suffering is related to my understanding of myself as an individual, as a guy named Ian. And that the shame that I feel, and the resentment I feel, and the rejection I feel really only makes sense when I understand myself as a separated being, distinct from all of you, distinct from all other beings. And that shame and the resentment and the rejection, it doesn't make sense in the realm of understanding where I know that I was created from the stars and I grew out of this planet like the plants, and that I am connected to a great life force that we don't really have a name for. We've got a lot of names for it, but we don't have one name for it. Maybe we call it Earth, maybe we call it God, maybe we call it presence, but there is this bindingness that we know we're not really separate. And what would shame and resentment and rejection mean with that understanding of life? It would fall away. The earth does not feel shame, and I am of the earth. So intellectually and intuitively, I know this, but sometimes spiritually, I feel so trapped in the realm of my ego. We know there is more to life. We can feel it. But it feels like there is a threshold, and we are stuck on this side, the side of isolation and separation. And we want to experience the greater sense of connection, but we don't know how to get through the threshold. We don't know how to pass through to the other side where we bask in the great community of being, where we live in that great communion of subjects. As I love to quote from Thomas Berry, and cease to live in a way that treats the world as objects, a collection of objects, where we turn everything into objects, not just this, but people too. And so when I see these books, whether they are by the Buddha or by Deepak Chopra or Marianne Williamson or whomever, right, I see one thing. I see a desire to pass through the threshold, an intense desire for a spiritual life where we feel held in the presence of that great intimate connection, where we don't have to have shame and resentment and fear. These books are bestsellers because of it, right? The 14 Stations of the Cross and the Methods of Ignatian Prayer are written about anew every year, multiple times, and they are bestsellers every year. And they've been that way for centuries. And a pessimist might say that all of this is a waste because we never really seem to get anywhere, and I can understand that position. I don't have any proof that the threshold exists. I just feel it. I can't say it any more than I just long for it. Like, I want to be connected with you. I want to belong to you and have you belong to me. And that's a certain faith statement. I choose to believe that we read these books, or now I guess we watch these YouTubes and all of the things, right? Because we feel there is an opportunity to pass through something, a threshold that exists between our ego and the greater experience of life, and we believe that it's possible to get there. I mean, I think the explosion of yoga is about this. It's not just about exercise. I mean, sometimes it's about exercise. But often it's about, I want to be embodied and to feel myself connected. I choose to believe that we read them because of this potentiality, not because we don't know what else to do with our suffering that we find so intolerable that we make up some story about a better life, of a greater existence. I choose to believe that we feel this intuitively because we are called by this greater experience of life, that life wants us and desires us and reaches out to us. The Sufis call this experience the beloved because for them, life is not cold and indifferent. Life is not cold and indifferent. They call God the beloved because for them it is like a lover. That's how intensely God desires you. We sit on the other side of the threshold thinking that we are alone. But there is a greater experience calling out to us, telling us how much it wants us, the beloved. As you know, I've taken to calling it my darling. My darling. Because that's how intimate I feel the relationship, my darling. We read these books, we go to these talks, we come to church, we mark our bodies, we hang images in our home, we walk pilgrimages, we chant, we bow, we pray, not because we live in illusion, but because something is calling us through the threshold. It has no name, it has no form, no truth to it. These are just things we invent to help us tell the story of what we feel coming through the threshold. We make meaning of our lives by telling these stories. You know, this is one of the reasons we have lay ministers. They are the storytellers. They are storytellers. They're just trying to tell you what they feel coming through across the threshold. You have your own story, each of you. The unfortunate part is most of us don't trust ourselves. We don't trust our listening, our hearing, which is why we look to a book or a teacher, or God forbid, we look to a minister. That's the worst. Don't do that. We look because we're hoping that someone can tell us about their experience, right? Tell us what they hear coming through the threshold. And we're like, well, maybe if we approximate, right, we can hear it too. But these stories are always someone else's story. And when we cling to another person's story, we're never quite sure of our own because we learn to not trust our own hearing. Is the beloved talking to me? God wants to be in communion with me? But I am so flawed. So we go through the 10 stages of flawlessness before God wants to really talk to us, right? This decision to trust the book, extolling someone else's experience with the threshold instead of trusting what you hear coming across the threshold, is a choice that you make. A book can never do for you what you can do for yourself. It's a choice we make every day, every moment. And the truth is, none of us are perfect, right? And some of the choices that we make are made in fear, and they create a life of narrowness and pain and suffering. And some of these choices are made in love, and they create a life of kindness and sensitivity and generosity. And sometimes it's hard to know if we can trust what we are hearing because we don't know if we are listening to the fear of the isolated self or the love of the connected self, because we don't know ourselves well enough yet. But I do think that there is a litmus test that we can apply if we are willing to be honest with ourselves. Yesterday, one of you shared a quote with me from A. Powell Davies, the acclaimed minister from All Souls, D.C., back in the 40s and 50s. And I decided to add it to the sermon because I think it adds a dimension of insight. And also, he's a much better preacher than me. It's just, his words are great. The quote reads, "The years of all of us are short, our lives are precarious. Our days and nights go hurrying on, and there is scarcely time to do the little that we might. Yet we find time for bitterness, for petty treason, and evasion." We don't have much time in our lives, and yet we find time for this. What can we do to stretch our hearts enough to lose their littleness? Here, we are all of us upon this planet, bound together in a common destiny, living our lives between the briefness of the daylight and the dark. Kindred in this, each lighted by the same precarious, flickering flame of life. How does it happen that we are not kindred in all things? How strange and foolish are the walls of separation that divide us. And here is why I think that passage is important, not just pretty words. As we have talked about several times this year, you actually know someone by what they do, not by what they say. There are so many champions in the world of that phrase, "God loves you," right? And these same people seem to actively promote homophobia, racism, misogyny, and fascist politics. It's incongruous. The words and the actions do not align. So the actions are a much better indicator of what people really believe than the words they say. So when we cast a finger in the direction of these people crying out hypocrites, and I think they are, but what about us? What about us? We say, love is the teaching of this church. But how often do we actively take that on as the barometer of our actions? Do my actions align with what I say I believe, with the words I repeat every week? Or am I reserving time and space for bitterness, petty treason, and evasion? Am I nurturing the littleness of my heart and the walls of separation? Or am I looking upon you as kindred, as sharing the precious flickering flame of life with me? It's easy to justify behaviors. I love self-righteousness. God, I love it so much. I'll take it any day over ice cream. Like, self-righteousness and anger give me, and maybe some of you can identify, give me a sense of power and control in an overwhelming world. But this sense of power and control is an illusion, and it comes at the cost not only of broken relationships, but personal integrity, my personal integrity. The phrase, love is the teaching, can either be pretty words that we say and ignore, or it can become the precarious, flickering flame we use to guide our path through the great unknown that we have all chosen to walk together. It is a crucible that can burn away the fear and the shame and the resentment. Or it can be weaponized. Just like the people we decry. The litmus test is revealed in our actions. And fortunately, we have chances all day long, right? When we are waiting in line to check out. When we are about to send that email. When you're dealing with your younger brother. I'm sure love is the teaching always. Just as it is with my younger sister. When we are engaging with all of our family. There are so many choices and chances to see if our actions align with the guiding principle that we say is what binds this community, that we covenant to, right? Love is the teaching, and we must seek to embody this. We read these books and listen to these teachers because we want to release ourselves from the sense of isolation that stalks us. We want to join the communion of subjects. We want to trust in something because we're not sure if we can trust our own ears, because we know how easy it is for other people to fool themselves, and we look back at ourselves and wonder, how are my actions serving as a mirror for me? Is what I am doing creating a life of narrowness and pain and suffering, or a life of kindness, sensitivity, and generosity? Our actions will tell us if we are willing to listen. I know that my darling speaks to me all the time from across the threshold. Doesn't mean I always listen. But at any moment, I can choose to listen. I can choose to listen. When my friend saw the book, Doorway to the Soul, on my table, she asked if I'd ever had a spiritual experience, and it caught me off guard because it's such a difficult thing to answer. Yes, I have. Many. I've had so many. But I got stuck when I tried to answer her because they all felt so different. But as I reflected on her question later, I realized that they all have something in common as well. They existed, all of them, in the in-between space where I knew that I was both living in this form and simultaneously living in the greater existence. Time disappeared, shame, resentment, rejection disappeared, and I abided in the intimacy of my darling. All of existence felt close, so close. There is only one step required to open the door of the soul. Listening. Listening is all that is needed to walk through the threshold if we have the willingness to try. You have to trust that existence wants to talk to you. You have to believe you're worth talking to. Without these, it'll be tough to open the door because it will be tough to listen. But if you don't feel like you can do these things perfectly, you can still just try. Denial and fear may get in the way. I mean, they will. But you can catch yourself. You will know when you're in it because, honestly, it feels terrible. That's how we always catch ourselves. We're like, God, why do I feel so terrible? And you can look at your actions. They will tell you. And then you just go back to listening until your actions indicate that love is the teaching of your life. All the books we write, all the religions we create, all the monuments we build, all the journeys we take are evidence. We are not some cosmic mistake, lonely and isolated, making up invisible creatures to keep us company. We hear something coming across some threshold, and we are trying to respond as best we can. The beloved longs for you, desires you, and whether you can listen is just a choice that you can make. No book, no spiritual teacher, no minister can help you do that. It's for you to do. Trust your intuition. See the evidence for what it is, and just try. And soon you will be in deep conversation. Amen. Please join us in hymn number 131. You can rise as you're willing and able. It's in the gray hymnal, 131, Love Will Guide Us. Oh, if we listen. If we listen, love will guide us. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us. You should have this memorized by now. Come on. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from peace and giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. Please remain standing. Source of life, God, my darling, inspire us to hear, to see, to take into our bodies the message of love. Let it guide us into the great expanse of knowing and witnessing the worth and dignity of every being. Awaken us to that deep interdependence, the interwovenness of all existence beyond right and wrong, beyond my team and your team, where we just rest in presence, knowing that we are all together, a communion of subjects. And fill us with courage so we can do the very hard task of looking not at the actions of other people's, but of our actions, and seeing if they align with the spiritual value we hold aloft, that love is in fact the teaching. Amen. Please join me as I extinguish the chalice in the other order. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you to the choir. Amazing again, to our ushers, to our AV people, to everyone who joined us online, and to everyone who set up outside. Thank you so much. Our service has ended.